You can hear the birds and the dog and see the crosses, and you will understand we are on a graveyard here, a cemetery, an abandoned cemetery, to tell the truth, in eastern Poland. And a cemetery could give a nice idea of what Europe is. The Czech writer Jaroslav Rudiš said, Europe, this beautiful landscape of ruins, battlefields and cemeteries. And all in all, this could be quite precise. We have this Polish cemetery now. There are many German names on the tombstones because this place used to be German till 1945. Many Polish names, of course, because the place is Polish now, but also Lithuanian and Czech names, simply because Europe, and especially Poland, someone tries to deny it, don't believe him. Poland is a multicultural reality, and there are all kinds of people who still meet and have met here. This is a cemetery. So the people here are dead, and what you may feel if you are sensitive is as well, this is death here. So we have the death underneath, and there is an enormous concentration of grief, of sadness, of sad people who came here and cried and still come here and think about people who have vanished. And it's both peoples who came and went away and people who vanished. Although many of those who come here see death not as a simple vanishing, you're away, but as a kind of threshold you have to take from one world, the world of the living persons, to another world, possibly heaven. The only thing is that the threshold means you don't know anything before you take it. You don't know anything before you cross the sill. And once you have crossed it, you can't come back. And this image of the threshold is something we take from our everyday life. And in there, a philosopher can find, or any reflecting person can find some interesting aspects it is worth a while discussing about. After the first threshold, the classical material stone-hard threshold, all of us know, is the threshold that divides the world into an outside world and an inside world. The German poet Trakel says thresholds are petrified pain. Why pain? Because it divides the world into two. Outside there may be dangers, inside you will feel at home. Inside and outside you will be two different persons probably, because outside in the nature you may feel afraid, you have to pay attention, whilst inside you can relax, you will cheer up, and this is your home being, your being home. Two different personalities, two different worlds, united and divided by the threshold. If you come in, you may say, I have lost contact to nature, but if you come out, you may say, I have lost the contact to my home, to my family, whatever you have there. And this very material threshold, we take it as a metaphor for certain events in life. One of the first real big thresholds, we say, sills to cross in life, we take it when we start speaking. You hardly have any memory of this event. Maybe some events of the time prior to this, like some images or sensations, but it's very hard to precise these memories, I guess. and you maybe have some memory of the time afterwards. So this is a threshold, and the passing of a threshold, it's hard to talk about. We are completely different before than how we are after having crossed the threshold. That's clear. A second important threshold, and that's the one that is interesting me today, is the passage between the illiterate kid, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years old, to the kid that knows how to read and write. And you think, well, okay, I learned writing, and maybe you remember something like a sense of empowering. Finally, I lifted all the mysteries of my parents, or finally I could read all the books, or finally I didn't have to ask my dad anymore to read these stories to me. I could read them by my own. There's a sense of empowering, but this is our afterwards talking, our talking afterwards about the moment, the period we crossed the threshold between the illiterate to the literate child. Because the threshold, seen from one side, is totally different from the threshold seen from the other side. Let's see. We have kids at elementary school, we have children who seemingly don't want to learn how to read and write. They just sit there and don't acquire these abilities. And nowadays we have a kind of magicians we have nowadays, the psychologists in these cases. Nowadays we would call a psychologist, and parents would ask something like, "What's wrong with my kid?" And the psychologist will say after a while, "Well, he or she is afraid." And we'll start maybe some therapy or give him some pills, whatever psychologists do, I don't know precisely. Parents and teachers might as well ask a philosopher. Usually they don't, I assure you, but they could. And the philosopher would say, well, the fact that your child doesn't want to learn how to read and write is totally logical and reasonable, because it's afraid. The same answer as the one the psychologist gave, but with another meaning. It's a reasonable answer. It's not kind of illness or madness or strangeness of the child. This is totally reasonable. Why is it so? Just have a look at the first thing we need when we start writing. We need a support. This will be a monitor usually nowadays. It could be a colored page, or even a tree. No, we write on trees sometimes, or maybe. Usually, essentially, we need a white. This is not totally okay. We need a white sheet of paper, and if you just remake the experience of a white sheet of paper, you have already seen now. The white piece of paper makes everything vanish. Everything behind and around is vanished as soon as you take your piece of paper or your monitor and are going to write on it. Strange. First vanishing movement. The second is, as soon as you write on the support, on the white sheet is no white sheet anymore, so it's vanished all the same. So we are going on with making things vanish, like the magicians. And now let's start writing something like Daddy on the page. No? And you see what the child sees. And the child understands, this is Daddy. It's not Daddy. There's a moment of being afraid, of Angst in this. Why so? Because here we have Daddy, but Daddy is not here. Easily. As soon as I write Daddy here, the idea of Daddy is here, there's a presence of Daddy, but in the absence of Daddy. At least he is behind the sheet or somewhere, but he's not here anymore. You make the other persons vanish as soon as you write. They're not here. And you may feel this very profoundly, and that's a reason why you could just say, I don't want to write. I don't want to learn this strange trick here. How to make people vanish. The question is, what could the philosopher say to the child? Oh, you're right. Oh, forget it. Maybe, we could say this. Don't learn it. Understand. You have good reasons for not learning how to write. We could also say, well, if you learn this, you can indeed make everything vanish. But that means that you can stand on your own. Could be a philosophical approach. What's sure is you would have, as a philosopher, to listen to the child, to find its reasons, and to discuss these reasons with the child very easily. Now we have still something we could discuss about, because daddy is, this is Western culture, no, it's not Chinese. So we see letters one after the others, and this row of letters is pointing into the future. The philosopher Wilhelm Flusser has written interesting things about it, but we are not discussing this now. We have this alphanumeric code, which makes anything vanish and gives no idea here, no resemblance even of presence of something. Nothing is here, just these signs. Everything is away, but it's here, it's an idea, it's here. So this double game of making things and persons vanish can make us afraid. If we take a look then into the history of literature, or think about your letters, the letters you wrote, the letters you have written, I don't know. Let's take a look of literature. In literature we have, once in a while, in the 17th century, already Baroque, we have people try writing like this. They write about a palm tree as a metaphor, bearing fruit and so on. Palm tree, and they write it like this, This looks like, with their written alphanumerical signs, they want to give a picture. They want to get nearer to what the same writing excludes, that is reality. And all the same, they don't get nearer. No, it's just a reiteration of the same procedure of making things vanish, go away. So you can find this as well. I remember when I was young, I sometimes made little drawings in my love letters and so on. Maybe you did. And here I have a letter from a German poet, just a private letter, and he did it like this. So he we have this white space between the letters, which is the vanishing space, the space where everything vanishes, and he tries to get nearer, to give the image at least, to get nearer to his own reality as he sees it, in representing this reality, so in taking it away at the same time. He tries to get nearer to the thing, and we all have maybe done this sooner or later in our life, at least as kids. Nowadays we use emails, and we cannot make drawings on our emails, but we give links to music, trying always to getting nearer, to getting out of this cage of our written language, or we attach photos or small films or things. One very interesting thing nowadays I find is this one. We write a love letter, I miss you, I love you, so on, and we put these signs in. These used to be emoticons, but nowadays they are just like this, emojis. We put emojis inside, which are partly icons. Icon is this one, like just a face. It means this man, in this case a blonde, yellow man, I don't know. So they bear the signs of the real thing. They seem to get really near to the real thing, while of course they are just representations and saying there's no real thing here. This is the trick in it. And then we have symbols like the heart. It would take a long time to talk about the history of the heart as a symbol, so there's no necessary connection between the heart and the meaning of love or feeling, but in history this connection has come up. We have these emojis. And what are these emojis? These emojis are small signs that try to contrast the vanishing, the annihilating, the excluding movement of our writing. And in this way, emojis are, if you want so, not totally different from the Tombstones. Just to return here. Tombstones are together, like emojis, a kind of protest, a sign that this vanishing is not everything, that we want to go, that we want to cross the border, and the confirmation of the fact that things, that people vanish, like emojis.